Hey guys, Bart the Nature Guy here on a kind of blustery, cold October day. And it definitely looks more like December or January. But at the time that I love seeing the transitions of seasons. And I also love the fact that now is a time when we do see snow, we get to see a lot of animal tracks and see where those kind of squirrels and rabbits and field mice and birds, where they tend to move, and things that we've never seen all year, because we don't really pick up on those trails that they use all the time in the summer and springtime, when we can't see their tracks in the same way that we can now. So you get to see kind of what's around. So I encourage you guys to go outside this week, take a look, maybe look near a tree or around bushes around your home, and see maybe there's some activity there that you weren't able to see previous. And so we get the joy of, sounds strange to say it this way, but the joy of the past. Animals leave tracks behind, and so we get to see where they've been and what they're up to in a different way. So something to think about. I do have like sleet coming down on me right now, so I apologize if you're hearing the clicking of the ice coming down on me. And so today I kind of wanted to talk about different types of campfires, number one, and also that's just insulation from the elements. So keeping your body warm in temperatures like this is really important, especially when it's damp and wet like this. So I wanted to kind of go through even some layering of clothing. So number one, you need a heat source, which is really nice. We'll go over campfires. There's different kinds of campfires and different reasons why you'd use a certain style at a certain time, but also looking at gear. So I'm pretty geared up right now. Winter camping is a little different with gear. It is something that you have to really kind of pay attention to, because there's things like cotton is not really that good of a material for cold weather all the time, especially if it gets damp like this. When we're hovering in those 30-degree temperatures and things like the snow is really sticking together, that wetness, if it gets like in your hood here, like this is, you get this hood up, a giant hood. So, but it really does protect from things coming in, but this can gather up. So if you're like somebody that really likes to wear hoodies, and cotton hoodies that we typically see people wearing all the time. I wear them. I love cotton hoodies, but it can the wetness and dampness can kind of get built up in the back, and that can actually kind of suck the heat out of you. So there's other materials like wool, fleece, that are moisture wicking, but also keep your heat with you. Instead of actually having the cold stay with you, and they just don't get dry quick. If you're camping with those materials, and let's say you do get them wet, there's a little bit of rain, it takes a while to dry those materials out compared to like a fleece. I'm actually wearing on my lower level is actually what they call a base layer, and the base layer is something like a silk or some sort of material that is almost like a long underwear material that really allows you to have your moisture kind of get away from you. And pull it, especially if you're working, especially in winter camping scenarios. People are oftentimes doing activities like snowshoeing or cross-country skiing, or they're hiking, downhill skiing, whatever it might be. They're building up heat inside all these layers, and so you want to make sure you get that off of you. And the reason you do is because when you stop and slow down, that sweat that you build up inside your system will start to cool off, and it can actually get you very chilled. This is probably one of the reasons why I don't do a ton of winter camping, is because I tend to get hot really fast. Kind of more, some people sweat a lot, some people don't sweat at all, and some people sweat a ton. I tend to sweat a lot, so that gets my hat real wet, and I can get chilled, and I have to be very careful when I do hiking in the winter to really keep a slow pace, kind of a turtle's pace, so I don't build up too much heat, and that will chill off my whole system and make me possibly hypothermic. We'll talk about hypothermia in a couple weeks. I usually do that right as kind of the ice forms. We've had an early snowfall, but there's still, as you can see behind me, open lakes. So we'll kind of talk about that as the ice starts to form, and we're talking about ice safety and hypothermia and whatnot. But just remember, if you have like a temperature when you're sick and your temperature goes up to like 101, I feel terrible that way. So imagine if we're 98.6 and we go up to 101, that's only a few degrees. It only takes us a few degrees on the bottom end to also get ourselves in a lot of trouble, and not feel good, and our body will start to really react to that. So we want to make sure that we keep our core temperature solid within this kind of weather system of being out in the cold for a while. I'm also wearing just some light cotton gloves. I would traditionally not wear these when I'm out doing things, but I want to be able to take my gloves on and off for you guys as we do this kind of, as I'm handling the firewood. And so I wanted to just let you know that I typically don't wear these. Like, these are like hardware store gloves. They're definitely great for moving in and out of a car, you know, and kind of going from the garage to, or hanging out waiting for the bus to come, that sort of thing. It can definitely be helpful, but if I were going to spend a majority of my time outside, I would definitely switch my gloves to a Gore-Tex, something that's waterproof on the outside. This jacket is a jacket I love. It doesn't have zipper all the way down, so it really protects me from the snow if I am hiking, from getting in anywhere. I don't have a zipper all the way down. I have extra pockets where I can put my hands in the middle here. The style is called an anorak. It's a style I really prefer, have really grown to love. It's also a material that's waxed, and so it actually, I take like almost like, it's like a candle wax, but I actually rub it into the shoulders and the back, and then I heat it up with a hair dryer, and it kind of settles in, and what it does is create some water resistance on kind of key places. That also goes for the pants as well. And so these get waxed right on the front here on your knees, so if you are sitting or kind of kneeling like I am, I'm getting the right here, it's going to stay dry. They're not completely waterproof, so if it does actually start to rain, I would definitely move into rain gear, a little bit different. So, but again, that base layer needs to be wicking. The second layer, I use a little bit of the material today is kind of a quilted material. You might see people wear a lot of down jackets. That poofy jacket can be really good. It's not waterproof, and so if it does get wet, it's not very helpful material to have with you, especially if it's down. I was wearing the jacket the other day when these snows first started coming, and I wasn't prepared for it to start to snow. I was on a hike, and I knew it was going to get a little wet, but no big deal. But when I got back to my vehicle, my down coat, my puffy, was really wet and soaked and heavy and gross kind of. And so I would really encourage you to make sure that you have a second layer, an outer layer. So you have kind of this base layer, a moisture wicking layer that doesn't really keep you, I heard it said one time, it doesn't really get you warm, but it keeps you from getting cold. So it's basically just an extra layer. Then you have the kind of some sort of quilted or poofy material, and what your body's doing, like if you have one of those big poofy jackets, you know, the big puffy jackets, that space that it creates, that space in there, if you have your skin here and it's 10 below zero out here, what your body's doing is heating up that space in between. It's the same thing for a house. You have that pink insulation, so think about it the same way. You have the outside of the house, and it's over here, it's 20 below zero in February. Over here, your house inside is 70 degrees. So it's that space right here, and you put that pink insulation in there, creates a transitionary zone between that warmth and that cold to hold in the heat and minimize the effects of that cold inside that house. That poofy coat kind of operates that same way. It creates a large amount of space for your body to heat up that air cushion that it creates. Same thing like a sleeping bag is the same way. So that's why they're all big and poofy like that. So we talked about that in regards to gear last week. Same thing here. So kind of an insulating layer, and then having an outer layer here. This outer layer is really important to keep, like what's happening today. I'm sure you can kind of see it. I'm getting lots of like flex on my jacket, and it tends to kind of wick away real fast. So and then boots and shoes, I definitely would encourage you to look at socks that are more different synthetic materials or wool in regards to keeping your feet warm. Making sure you have waterproof shoes in conditions like this. Cold feet can make a system miserable, and most hikers would say if you had to choose one thing to get right when you're out in this type of weather, it's going to be your feet. The rest isn't going to matter. So I would say a shell like this and some footwear that's at least waterproof. They have great walking shoes and running shoes that are waterproof and Gore-Tex material as well. So that's kind of your insulating layer in weather like this. But we also have to kind of, behind me, keep our system warm. So I'm going to step off here. We're going to go through a couple different campfire designs. I'm also going to start a fire for you guys. I'm going to lower this down. This is kind of a funky little tripod here I have. So kind of fun. If my camera shuts off, it's because it gets cold and shuts down. And so that's something else you have to think about with being in weather like this, that your phone will just shut off to protect itself from the cold when you're not expecting it. So you're like, oh, I have a phone, it's all good. And all of a sudden you take it out and it's, you know, if it's 10 below zero, the possibility of the screen actually freezing, and protect it itself from actually having that happen while the systems are running, phones will oftentimes shut down. So just kind of keep that in mind. Here we go. We're going to go with the first design. This is the design I tend to use probably the most. And you see this in fireplaces a lot. And this is going to be called the log cabin design. I have the logs laid out so you can kind of see it. I thought I'd just kind of start off for fun here. I'll move this back so you guys can see me a little bit more. How's that? So you guys can kind of see me a little bit. My head's halfway in here. I'll squat way down here. So one of the things I like to use and have on site here is flint and steel. Matches are good, but in weather like this it can get wet. Something like a flint and steel is really fast. It shoots a lot of spark real quick. The spark is hot. It generally doesn't matter if it's wet. And so I think you can see that. This is called a ferro rod, and this is just a little strip of steel, and it has some kind of serrated teeth on it, and it grates against this ferro rod and creates a spark that's close to 1,000 degrees, so it works real fast. One of the things that I do at my house a lot is every time I run out of paper towel or whatnot, I'll cut that paper towel roll, and then I find my dryer lint from my dryer and I stuff them. I have these kind of like next to the dryer. I make these all the time, and I have them. I put them in Ziploc bags so I keep them kind of more water repellent. I also will sometimes wrap these in duct tape. The funny thing with duct tape is it has a lot of chemical in it that's flammable. I don't like to use it normally, but in a survival situation, having like even half this size wrapped in some duct tape where you're protecting that lint from getting wet is great. Now, dryer lint is very, very fine, like your hair. And so when I think of starting a fire in these kind of conditions, I really want to find things like these. You see these kind of like grasses behind me. I'm looking for dry things like that. Underneath pine trees is a great place to look. Underneath bushes is a great place to look. When you have weather like this coming down, you're looking for stuff that's dry or that stuff that's off the ground. So you're going off into that woods behind me over here, and you're looking for dead branches that are still on the tree, and you're breaking those off versus trying to find this stuff. One of the big things that happens in winter camping is you go out thinking, oh, I'm going to find some wood, but all of it's covered with snow, and so you're only looking for things above the ground. So oftentimes you're finding smaller branches or down logs that are really large. So you're kind of stuck with this odd in between. But the dryer lint is something I always carry no matter what. But a thing like a bird's nest. So this is part of a little nest right here that I found inside a wood pile. This is probably something related to more like a mouse. Is another way to kind of simulate this. So because I do this all the time, I'm used to it. But this is something I'd be definitely looking for when I'm walking through the woods. If I'm looking to start a fire soon, I'm looking for that nest. Especially this time of year, the birds are mostly abandoned their nests. You're not worrying about babies being in those nests this time of year. So winter is coming and they're moving on. So there we go. So nests can be a nice thing to look for. Just things that can shred. Also birch bark is very common. So this birch bark right here, just that little piece, great fire starter because it has oils in there. Also some pine has oils in it that help them start fires. So they're great fire starters. And so I figured I'd just start this for you today just to show you how fast this can be. I'm going to bring this close now so you can kind of see it as I do this. I'm going to angle this camera down here. So you can see, I actually, when I'm starting something, I try to get myself a little base, like a little platform to work off so I'm not working in the snow. And then all I'm going to do is take this ferro rod. I actually put this directly right into, I actually press it and kind of hold my whatever I'm starting in place. So the same thing with this, I would put that right there. And then as I strike it, it's already on fire. That's how fast that stuff lights. So that quick. So what I would do with this at this point is, I'm going to put it out now just for safety. Put it here in the center. As it's starting to light, I'm taking things that are now small, like less than like the size of my finger. So, oh guys, that is like winter thunder right there. Can you hear that? That's awesome. I love stuff like this. So I'm in my element right now. It's super fun. So what we do now, you think of your hair, then your fingers. So things the size of your finger, little sticks. You're putting that over the top. Then you're going more to the length of like your forearm with these larger sticks here, putting that on top. And what I like about a log cabin design is it squares things off real nice. It's real stable. And then you're just basically like Lincoln logs, stacking the wood across. And what I like about that is you can really adjust what kind of wood you'd like. If this is not burning real hot yet, you might put thinner logs here. If it's burning real hot, real fast, depending on the time of year, in the kind of the kindling that you have and the tinder that you have down here, you might be able to put a larger log on there. So that's kind of the log cabin design. It's something that I think works really well in fireplaces, only because this doesn't tip very easy. And so when you get to like the tipi design that we see for like people that are doing bonfires a lot, that is something. I'm gonna move on to the next one here. This is kind of that classic tipi design, right? So this tipi design is really sweet. It can be really fun, but that flame actually goes up here, because when you light the kindling down in this hole here, so your hand's down in here, that's where you put that ball of tinder and kindling right here. It starts to light and it lights the tops on fire, which means your flame is up here. So when you're in fireplaces and whatnot, your flame tends to be up in this area, which is great, but sometimes you can't even see it inside the fireplace. Also, if you move one of these, and I'm going to do this right now, if you have one of these burn fast, the whole thing kind of comes tumbling down. And so if you are in a spot where you're concerned, especially in the West right now, they've been really concerned about forest fires, this type of design in the outdoors can tip, and so you have to be very mindful of that, where the log cabin design tends to stay a little bit more keep more of a solid structure as it's burning. So the classic tipi design, super fun for bonfires. When you're hanging out with a bunch of people, it creates a nice tall flame. It burns a lot of wood real fast, so roasting marshmallows, hanging out by a campfire at night, super fun thing to do. But just something kind of keep in mind of the design. Has some disadvantage, which is it burns a lot of fuel fast. The flame tends to shoot up really high, and it can get a little tippy at times. So that's something to kind of think about. I'm going to move on to the next one. This is the lean-to design. So you can kind of see, now this could just be one big log right here. And then you have all these smaller logs, and your kindling bundle and kindling and tinder bundle go right in here. And this gets used in high wind situations. So this would be a really good design for a beach situation, or if you were needing to dry things out. So I was camping one time on the West Coast, and we needed to be able to have some sort of wind protection, but also we needed to be able to dry things out a lot. So also in Homer, Alaska, I was camping on a place called the Homer Spit. If any students or staff know that spot, that is a windy location. And so we use big pieces of driftwood that would come out off the ocean, set them up here. They've been soaking in the ocean for a while. They're not going to be on fire. But we put our fire here and protect from the wind coming from this direction. And then we could have this little fire right here, and we would be drying out wood that we found. Bunch of mallards chatting away in the winter time here. So that little spot, that's called a lean-to. So you can use a large piece of wood, like here I actually have kind of a stack of wood, protects from the wind and allows things to dry as you're doing your fire. So that's one design. The last one I wanted to go over is called the star design. I'm going to actually lift this up and you can see it. That is the star design. Where you might see people use this is if there's a minimal amount of wood. So see people that are camping up over the timberline. So if you're out in the mountains and you go up, let's say 10,000 feet, 13,000 feet, there might not be actually any more trees in that area. That's where that's that line between where trees. I'm gonna put a little stability thing here. That's where you'll see like the tree line stop and it goes kind of more to rock and maybe even snow. And so there's no way to bring wood. There's no wood right there, so you have to bring that wood up. So you're going to really not want to use that much, but you still want to stay warm. You still want to have a fire. You may still need to use it for cooking. So this design minimizes that, and the way it minimizes that is that you have your kindling and tinder bundle in the middle here, and then just these ends are burning. So just this inner ring is burning, and as it burns, all you're doing is grabbing a little piece and sliding it in tighter. And so all your flame is here, opposite of the bonfire style, the teepee style, where all that flame, there's lots of stuff burning at the top and it's burning hot and fast. This is a very slow burning fire. The other thing is you can actually set a pot. When you have all these logs that are about the same size, you can actually set a pot on here and use that as kind of your cooking grate as well. So, and if you want to have a fire overnight, especially if you're winter camping and whatnot, you can keep moving these logs in and kind of keep inching them in closer and closer. And again, it's a small fire and it only burns in the center here, and it won't leak out. Of course, you want to make sure you clear out a good area with a fire, right? So you want to make sure in all fires, you want to make sure you have a good clean area all the way around that's not going to have anything drift off in regards to a spark. Also, you're going to want to look up above you and see what kind of trees are above you, so those sparks aren't going up into those trees and possibly lighting them on fire too. So you don't want to do fires underneath a tree. So there we go. It's starting to really come down around me. You can probably see my eyes squinting right now. And so I'm going to call it a day. Bart the Nature Guy, peace out. Again, gear, base layer, something that takes the moisture away, something that insulates you, and something that protects you from the outside. Even neck gaiters, we're all masked up right now. These are my favorite little wool masks from the actual, we think of like Swiss Army knives. These are Swiss Army scarves, and so I cut these, they're like tubes, and I cut them into little sections, and so I have nice wool protection around my neck that keeps me warm. It's not itchy after you wash it a couple times. You got a nice little wool hat on right now. And then also, again, going through campfire designs, the star, the lean-to, our toppled teepee style, and the last one over here, again, that we started with, which is our log cabin design. That's it, everybody. Bart the Nature Guy, peace out. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay warm. Bye-bye.